So I want to start from where things started just a couple of months ago. So with a group of you, we ended up an amazing and energizing session in Berkeley in February. It was a sunny day. It was a beautiful place. This was just a smaller group, the first cohort of grantees, and many of our advisors. Many people couldn't make it, are here today. But it was a great experience and really energizing kickoff for this program. And sure enough, we finished that session by saying that the next EOSS meeting will be in an amazing haunted location, and we're soliciting feedback about like possible ways and possible places to host a larger community for the second and third cycle. And I want to say, like, we delivered 2020, and here we are on Zoom. This is not the haunted location that we were hoping for, but I want to say, like, looking back at these 3 days, it has been like an amazing energy, and I really missed personally the vibrance and just the possibility of like the communication happens in person. But this has been a fantastic event, and despite Zoom issues and dealing with our lives around a computer screen while presenting, really appreciate you all like allocating all of this attention and energy to make this event a success. As we think about what's coming up next, I first want to say a few words and acknowledge what happened since that sunny day in Berkeley, and reflect back on what this has been at CCI to think about the future of this community. So first off, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we continue to expand the size and the variety of projects that we support for the EOSS program. And since EOSS 1, we completed 2 additional cycles. We expanded the cohort of projects that we're supporting with this program across a variety of fields, both in specific scientific fields, but also with a stronger focus on some of the more foundational tools that you've heard about in the last 3 days. And this is really, to me, like, this is a fantastic achievement that we're now at the point where we have what is definitely not like a comprehensive set of projects that support every single scientist and every single scientific computing need out there, but this is like an incredibly good proxy for what the most mature projects that support science are looking like. And so I think we now have an opportunity, after doubling the size, more than doubling the size of this cohort, to really leverage this community and think about what we can do together in terms of both addressing the needs and surfacing the needs from this group, but also thinking about how to mobilize our organizations, funders, and industry partners and institutions to better support these efforts. Second, another thing that happened since February. So we actually started working with the carpentries in November last year, so exactly a year ago. And I want to say something that we think is super important at CZI about this work is not just supporting the maintainers of key open source tools, but also creating an interface between the providers of these tools and the communities that need these tools for their work. And so the carpentries, with whom we've been working since November, has recently launched this amazing centralized repository of computational curricula. It's a work in progress, but I want to give it a shout out and invite you to check it out if you haven't. But also, we started working in 2020 with another great initiative called Reproducibility for Everyone. We have April here from the team, and this is a complementary approach that tries really and bring visibility and awareness about these tools and practices to biomedical scientists at the key conferences where they naturally go as part of their work. And Additionally, we started thinking about what we can do as CZI to support not just individual projects, but also the growth and resilience of open infrastructure and so like ecosystem level initiatives. We partner with a new nonprofit called Try to See. You've heard about it earlier this week. I think Chris is not around anymore, but we're very excited about what this can build in terms of creating opportunities for bringing scientific computing, especially to institutions that are not often like resourced, and bringing more of the scientific computing ecosystem to these groups. But also we worked with an organization, nascent organization called Invest in Open. Caitlin was here, I don't know if she's still around, to really start thinking about what it means to build a open infrastructure in terms of resilience and growth and the advocacy and the funding models that are needed to support these efforts. So these are some of the additional things we've done since the last meeting. And looking ahead, I wanted to give you a sense of not exactly specific plans or announcements. They will be communicated through our official channels. So if you have questions about new events or new RFAs, I really invite you to take a look at the official communication we're going to have on the newsletter. But I want to give you a sense of like what we're working on, so you know what to expect going forward. The first thing I wanted to call out is that we're working not only on continuing to extend our own support to these projects and thinking about we can support new projects as well as supporting the existing needs of the project we already fund. Just to give you a sense of like the total size of our funding efforts. So eventually we funded about 10% of all the applications that we received. We received a total about over 700 applications across the 3 rounds. And of course, there's not just many more needs in this community that we could possibly support, but also many more projects that would be worth this kind of funding and that we couldn't support. So we want to acknowledge that and think about what we can do going forward to additionally create opportunities for these groups. But also, I'm excited about what the rest of the funding ecosystem is doing to support these efforts. And I want to call out a few examples that were mentioned during the event, and some other examples you may not know about. We heard from Saeed in the Johns Hopkins example about this pilot of a free open source software contributor fund supported by Sloan to be launched as a model that has been previously developed in the industry as something to be applied to institutions. There's a new project supported by the Moore Foundation to support and sustain the next decade of scientific Python. Stefan and Jared, who are here on the call, can provide more context on that. Super exciting initiative coming from another funder that has done a lot of work in that space. The Wellcome Trust is spinning up many new initiatives. We had Yo in the call, and keep an eye on what's coming from Wellcome because they're also doing some amazing work. And last but not least, also the level of governmental funding. NASA just announced 2 calls to support the maintainers of open source in areas that actually go beyond what you may think of NASA as funding. So by all means, check them out. These are key initiatives they want to support and want to continue to partners with its funders to broaden the surface of funding to support the maintainers. Next, one of the things that we really heard loud and strongly from this community is that there are still massive gaps in supporting DEI initiatives and community management practices. The workshop we just finished with Lou is a great example of how much demand there is for this and how resources are still not always readily available. So one thing that we're working towards is that we would like to provide this group of projects we fund with dedicated resources, financial support, training and tools to be able to run initiatives meant to create more inclusive communities and also to resource their community management efforts that often are hard to fund. So keep an eye out for announcements on that front. And related to that, we also want to acknowledge that there's a lot of work that's happening outside of these projects, outside of institutions, to try and strengthen and diversify the contributor pipeline to scientific open source software. So I'm thinking in particular of the amazing work that many communities of practice are doing, and the organizations support them. Thinking of examples such as Our Ladies and Pi Ladies, Black in AI, there's the National Society of Blacks in Computing, there's a Python Latin America, and there are many, many organizations that are working on the ground, not just to support open source contributions generally, but also to support specifically the path and trajectory of the future leaders of scientific open source software. So we would like to hear from you about any organization that we should be on our radar, that we should partner with to try and expand these efforts that we think are absolutely critical and complementary to what I mentioned before to grow these efforts. We heard, for those of you who were yesterday at the workshop on mapping the research software ecosystem, we think there's a really important and critical gap in credit and discoverability for scientific open source. There's been a lot of amazing work seeded by multiple funders, and we heard about some of these examples from Karthik and James. But we'd like to pick up these efforts and continue to work on this, both through our funding and partnering capacity, but also through technical work that we're doing internally at CZI, specifically with the team at Meta. And next, one of the things that I noticed, and I know this doesn't come as a surprise to any of you, is that while there's a lot of existing narratives and media coverage about open source and how the entire society relies on open source, and it's absolutely critical that we support the foundations of open source. The message around how critical open source is for science is still pretty absent from the main tech media, and I think it's a message that has become more visible in institutional contexts and maybe in open source groups, but it's still sorely lacking some better visibility. And so we would like to work with our comms team and our partners on a major campaign to try and enhance the visibility of the work y'all are doing. And last but not least, without overpromising, I like to think of ways in which we can reconvene this community. We don't have yet a firm timeline for 2021. Or location or virtual setting or whatnot, but we're definitely committed to supporting another convening, and we will let you know the when and how on the official channels. But you can definitely count on another meeting happening in 2021. And so I just want to close by reminding you that we would like to stay in touch, and there are many ways in which you can reach us. We have the general EOSS channel, so not the meeting channel, but the general channel where more people are actually joining and they can continue the conversation. Please join that if you're not already on it. We have, of course, an email that you can use to reach us, and a website where we keep posting all the latest from the Open Science program. In case you haven't seen it or received it, we have a monthly newsletter that Carly is compiling. It tries to collect both stories from these groups and from the Open Science community at CZI and the broader community, but also important announcement from CZI. So if you're not on that, please make sure to send Carly a note, and she will add you to the distribution list. And finally, I want to say that my slides are blocked for some reason, right at the point where I was hoping to, oh, there we are, to give a big shout out to the organizers. You can reach us on Slack, and we'll be always reachable through these channels. But also want to take this opportunity to thank those in the team that really made this event possible. And Carly and Alex from the Open Science team, and Arne and Andrea have been absolutely fantastic and critical, but I really wanted to give a huge shout out to Vivian, who pulled this together and ran this event so smoothly despite being online and not in a nice hotel. Thanks a lot, Vivian. Thanks to all the speakers and the moderators and all of you for your contributions, participation. So with that, I'm going to close here and open the floor for questions and comments.